everyone, it's me, your boy Maximus. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining me. Of course, we are on Remembrance Weekend, and I hope those who are going to be supporting it are wearing your poppy. But I've got some interesting events coming up this weekend, so I will be sharing that footage with the channel at some point. In fact, I am going to a hockey game this evening as a flag party, which is always fun. And we're going to be working on the ceremonial drill on the gun platform on Monday for Remembrance Day. So, of course, lots of things going on, and I hope you are going to honour Remembrance Day in your own special way, whatever that may be. But, of course, today we are talking about the Royal Marines Commando. Now, I have a huge level of respect for the Royal Marines because I actually have many of my friends are part of that unit. And I have served alongside them in Afghanistan when I was deployed to Helmand Province. They were jumping up and down all over the place with their BV-206s, or Warthogs as they're called. Great bunch of guys, the greatest sense of humour, really funny guys. I had a blast on tour with them. They were just amazing beasts at PT, which of course we know that for sure. But today's video is going to discuss an article that I found, and I'm always fascinated about learning about specialized units such as the Royal Marines Commando, and they're about to get even more specialized. So the Royal Marines, if you don't know what they are, is basically the Royal Navy's Spearhead or Shock Force Commando unit. So not almost kind of special forces of the UK Special Forces support group. They're not sort of SBS SAS side, if you don't know what Royal Marines are. They are, but the basis of the infantry of the Royal Navy. And of course the Royal Marines have a huge amount of history, 350 years of history. I was actually myself going to join the Royal Marines Commando before I got influenced into the armoured world of the tanks and track vehicles, and that was where my passion was, and that was the way I go. But I was, at one point when I was younger, really wanting to be a Royal Marine. Of course things changed, and it is what it is. But I found an article from the Express, and of course I am not a subject matter expert, I am not a defense analyst, and I do not know if this information I'm about to share with you is 100% accurate, so please take that with a pinch of salt. Of course, please ignore all the other jargon and crap and ads that are going on in the background here. So the article that was sent to me, actually, and they wanted me to look into it, is the Royal Marines to embrace an original World War II commando role as they relaunch with new weapons. So let's get into this article and analyze it a little bit. So the Royal Marines are to undergo a complete rebrand with a new maritime role and fresh combat uniform as it embraces the future of returning to its Second World War roots. This is already getting very interesting. It comes as commanders of the 350-year-old corps seek to end the blurring with the Army counterparts? Counterparts. If a Marine's watching this, he's going to be like, no, Matt, you got it right the first time. It's counterparts. And adopt more commando raid approach with smaller units using high-tech kit. Future commando forces plan to see, will see Green Berets provide more direct support to special forces and based onboard pre-positioned motherships. I like that word, motherships. It's almost like, it makes me think of Independence Day. Ready to strike in areas such as the Mediterranean and the Gulf. Other moves include the wider integration of autonomous platforms such as a remote-controlled vessel and drones, while at the tactical level they are to be issued with a newly digitally enhanced camouflage combat uniform, which will be distinctive to them. This is really interesting. So basically they're trying to prevent the Army and the Commandos blurring into this mass operational force that works together. And of course in a Helmand Province, when I was working alongside them, that's what they were mostly doing. Of course, you put a Marine into any combat scenario, they're going to nail it, and they're going to do an amazing job. That's their job to be. They're the elite. You put them in the desert, you put them in the snow, you put them in the sea, you put them anywhere, they're going to work and do the job and complete the mission. But of course, in a Helmand Province, when we're in the desert, there was, a lot of integration between armed forces with the Royal Marines. The Army, the Air Force, everyone was working together. And of course, I think the Marines are starting to look at, we don't want that. We want something a little bit more specific to back in the old days, where we're sending in Marines in small groups, raiding parties, interdiction teams, groups that are going to be dropped behind enemy lines. And it's interesting because I find that to be what always comes to mind when I think about Commando. And I know I'm not part of the British Armed Forces anymore, previously serving, so I don't have a huge amount of say on this. Now I'm serving in the Canadian Army, I see even bigger of a spectrum of different options available to being in an armed force and what they can do. But we all know the Royal Marines are pretty much one of the best units out there for what they do, whatever environment they go into. So I don't think any change to them like this is going to be a huge detrimental effect to them. I think it's a positive thing. Those of you who are watching who are Royal Marines, who have a vest into the Royal Marines, then please let me know your opinion. So though only some Royal Marines now have access to the superior Cult 7, the move will see it rolled out to all members and mark the Corps ditching the standard issue SE80. Now, we've done many videos on this before, and this is something I can speak to. I've used both weapons systems. I've used the SE80, the L85A2 and A1 in the British Army, and now I'm using the Colt C7 rifle in the Canadian Army with the C7A2 platform. So I have a little bit of basis on this. Honestly, I think it's a great idea that the Royal Marines are getting their dedicated C7 or the Colt Canada rifle. Of course, the SE80, in my opinion, and we've done many videos on this in the past, and we're not going to beat a dead horse, is a great rifle, in my eyes, but I know many, many people who disagree that it is not good, and that's fair play. I do not disagree with you whatsoever. I'm just, like I said, it's my stance. But I think the Royal Marines definitely deserve their own specialized weapon system. The C7 is definitely a good option. I don't think they're going to keep in its standard configuration that I'm used to in the Canadian Army. They're probably going to pump a ton of money into it, put specialized optics on there, handguards, blah, 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 and kind of really customize it to what this is what the Commando's looking for, more of a customizable unit that's more specific with their own equipment. And, you know, you're going to see in some of this footage, they're still using the L129 and, the designated marksmanship rifle with the 7.62mm standard, but the C7's a good option, so it's interesting that the entire core of the Royal Marines Commando is actually going to get that weapon system. So as part of the push to return to its maritime role, discussions are currently underway to change the officers' ranking to match those of the Royal Navy rather than the British Army, though this is still under review. I'm not a big fan of this, I understand they are part of the Royal Navy, but as an infantry force, it prevents less confusion between ranks when you lead the Commandos in the Army rank structure of Corporal, Commando, etc., or also Marine. That just makes sense. I'm not too sure why they're changing that out. It's not my opinion to say if it's good or a bad thing to do. It doesn't make much sense to me. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. I know in the Canadian Armed Forces we've had that transition in the past before, and a number of people I've spoke to said they weren't really too concerned about it, but it did raise some confusion sometimes between changing of the rank structure. So it's kind of a weird dynamic, that one for sure. But if that's what they're going to do, then fair enough. What has been decided, however, is they will retain their iconic green beret and cap badge. I think that's a very smart move. It would be the worst thing in the world to change either of those two things. It is literally the most iconic thing of any elite unit, such as the Parachute Regiment or the Royal Marines Commandos, to change their headdress. That is what you aim and aspire to wear through every part of your training. In the Royal Marines Commando, you do your 36 weeks. That is what you want. You want that green beret and that cap badge at the end of that course to be a Commando, to be a Royal Marine, and for them to change that would be the worst decision you could make. But I'm glad they're keeping that and keeping the heritage of the Royal Marines, which is really cool. So I quote, "The scale and ambition of our transformation is significant. Nothing is off limits, and we aspire to be at the cutting edge of defense," unquote, said Royal Marines Commandant Major General Matt Holmes. So interesting, he's opening up the table here. No holds barred. He wants to really make some change, and fair enough, it's his unit. And maybe I think there's going to be some real positive changes. I mean, the rifles alone is a really, really good thing. The new uniform, not got much on this. I don't know what's going on with the new uniform. Again, maybe they want to differentiate between the Army MTP. I think that's a smart move. The American forces have done that to differentiate between the Army and the Navy and Air Force. I do feel like it's a smarter option, just to kind of give a little bit more accountability and responsibility of, that's us and that's you, right? We're not the Army. We don't have the same camouflage pattern. A little bit more, ownership sort of thing. Senior sources confirmed that the new force distribution policy was inspired by recent US Marine Corps guidance. So, of course, the US Marine Corps have, their own ties into this kind of thing, I guess, as well. And they're kind of taking some inspiration from that, maybe. Ironically, however, it will mark the Green Berets' return to their original commando roots. Currently, the regiment uses concentrated force to pit strength against the enemy's weaknesses. Under the new plans to be phased over in 3 years, it will adopt a more special operations approach by using more small units complemented by technology, such as the use of remote-controlled boats to set up a decoy, while another unit speeds ashore with a remote-operated UAV to help identify their targets. As part of this basic Royal Marines unit, a troop will be reduced from 30 commandos to 16. So again, they're wanting to get away from the sort of larger platoon-level type strike forces and more sort of a small, tight-knit group that can be inserted very quickly. When you get a larger group, a body of men or soldiers, Marines, whoever it may be, they need to have the infrastructure and the logistics to get them there, and a smaller unit is easier to insert. That's why Special Forces units work in a smaller setting, because they're easier to push in and out of into warfighting situations. The regiment currently operates one specialist maritime unit, 4-2 Commando, which is deployed in small groups in areas such as the Gulf and mounts maritime interdiction operations against piracy and protects shipping from potential Iranian attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. But Major General Holmes wants the entire 3rd Commando Brigade, the Royal Marines' main fighting arm, to become a special operations force, similar to its US Marine counterpart, probably similar to MARSOC. It means the Royal Marines have to be based on a new littoral strike ship, which I have done a video on in the past, so you're more than welcome to go check that out if you want to know what they look like, announced by former Defense Secretary Gavin Williamson, and placed on high readiness in areas of tension to mount rescue operations and assaults. The Ministry of Defence has already dedicated £35 million to develop 2 new vessels, one to be based in the east of Suez and the other covering the Mediterranean, which are to be rolled out in the next 5 years. Each will contain a company or strike force of 120 Royal Marines Commandos and up to 6 helicopters, possibly 3 heavy-lift Chinooks, a Wildcat and 2 Apache gunships. In the meantime, a new amphibious task force headed by Commodore James Parkin has just been launched. Until the littoral ships arrive, it will operate from amphibious assault ships HMS Albion and HMS Bulwark, as well as the Fleet Bay's class landing ships. There are still several challenges to work out, sources say. These include securing communications in a hostile environment, especially at long range, resupplying troops on the ground, possibly using experimental Malloy Aeronautics delivery drones, currently already undergoing US trials, developing a ship-to-shore connection to cross a water gap, overcoming enemy action faced by an insertion team of 150 nautical miles at a fast 60 knots. So basically, technology is really being pushed into this new dynamic, this new system that they're trying to get the Royal Marines to do. Resupply is a big one. As I said, you push 30 commandos onto the beach, they need supplies eventually, and it's not easy to get stuff back and forth from the shoreline like that. So I guess they're looking at drone technology potentially to deliver supplies, which is really cool. Major General Holmes said that the future operational environment will demand more persistent forward deployment and resulting in constant competition from potential adversaries from the Arctic to the Middle East and rapid responses to crises. The new littoral strike force will be active, not just ready, he said. I need agile, robust commandos able to operate an array of systems to win the fight if necessary in a denied hostile environment. A Royal Marines spokesperson said that the Royal Marines, quote, are a distinct but integral part of the Royal Navy and work is ongoing to reinforce their role as an effective maritime fighting force. The Commando Force will harness cutting-edge technology to be an effective maritime infantry force using innovative, potent, and elite fighting capabilities. They are and will remain a distinct but integral part of the naval service. There are no plans to change anything that denotes the strong history and the identity of the Royal Marines, including the Green Beret. So, really cool news, interesting news. I don't have much say on this because I don't have enough exposure to the Royal Marines, but to what I'm seeing, you know, investment in technology, new weapon systems, new uniform, more ownership to being a commando and having that sort of special forces or close-knit operation units, really, really cool stuff. I'd love to hear your opinion on this, folks. I thought I'd share it with you. As I said, I have the utmost level of respect for the Royal Marines. They're an outstanding bunch of troops. And I hope that there's some people out there that are able to kind of speak to this a little bit more and maybe give your own opinions. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure you leave a like by clicking on that stupid little blue thumb that you see there, and hit the little subscribe button with the bell button, which will notify you when new videos come out. Some of you have been telling me YouTube's being YouTube and doing what it normally does by unsubscribing you and not notifying you of when videos come out from my channel. So the best way to find out new ones coming is just hit the bell. I'm going to try my best to not flood you with videos, and you can always ignore me if it's not a video you're interested in, but if something like this appeals to you, then click the little button. Everything in the description box below, if you look down there, is going to give you all my links to social media and all that good stuff. If you want to support my channel on Patreon, you're more than welcome to, and thank you to every single one of you who have been donating support to my channel. It really does help. It really, really does. I can't express how much that means to me to have that support from you guys. And that is going to be it, folks. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next video. All the best. Bye-bye.